Hello and welcome to SCC Grant Basics. This is an onboarding training for new grantees. However, if you are a current or returning grantee, it's always good to get a refresher on grant paperwork. So yeah, joining me today is Cherie Erickson, one of our SF Bay project managers. Next slide, please. Okay. During this training, please use the chat to ask general questions. Our staff will answer or will touch on them when the training is over. Save the more specific and detailed question for our office hour after this training and when the event is wrapped up. If you are a current grantee, please share your experience and tips to newer folks in the chat. Slide. Okay, so start work. So once all the condition precedents are satisfied, your project manager will send you notice to proceed letter. And once you get the notice to proceed letter, you can start work on the grant. Slide, please. Okay, so to get paid, most often our grants are on a reimbursement basis. You can invoice as frequently as monthly, but please invoice at least quarterly. There is no set scheduling for invoicing. You can work with your project manager to determine a good schedule. Reminder, do not invoice for any work before your notice to proceed is issued. Your invoice will comprise of a completed request for disbursement or RFD form, a progress report, and cost backup documentation in one PDF. All direct costs and subcontracts need to have backup documentation. Do not include deliverables with your invoices. Those can be sent directly to your project manager. Next slide. So progress report. The progress report should cover the same set of time as the RFD and should detail the project work done for each task during that time. Paired with the RFD, the progress report should tell the story of the costs incurred. We also want to hear about the project progress, challenges, and successes for the billing period. So please be informative, but feel free to be brief, and you can summarize your progress in like a bulleted list if that's helpful. We also love like photos and stories, so if you can include those in your progress report, that's always great to see. So this is a screenshot of our progress report. Again, you can keep the work summary brief and summarize it in bullet points if you'd like. We also have a section to keep track of participant data. So that's in the that's in the second table, part 2 of the progress report. And you can keep track of them and keep track of participant data in the progress report and also in your final report. Okay, now I will hand it to Cherie, who will go over the second half of our onboarding basics.
Thanks, Irvin. So what you're looking at here is the 2-page request for disbursement form, or the RFD, as we call it. This is one part of the overall invoice, and we have this template available on our website in both Excel and PDF versions, and it would be great if somebody could put the link to that in the chat if we have it easily accessible. As a general rule of thumb, the blue boxes that you see are for you to fill in, and the yellowish green boxes will auto-calculate based on your inputs. This is really helpful because sometimes small math errors can get an invoice rejected many, many times. So it's great to just let the sheet auto-calculate for you. And we'll review this in a bit more detail. So next slide, please. Great. So this is the first page, which summarizes all of the expenses from the billing period. The task number, name, and budget must match what's on the approved work program. And this will look the same on every invoice. You can even make a template for yourself based on the task name and number and the budget, because it'll be the same every invoice. And the total cost to date, which is highlighted in green, is the sum of all of your invoices, including the current one. And we withhold the final 5% of your grant. So previously, if you used to have an ETC grant with us, what we used to do was withhold 5% of every single invoice, but we've actually changed our procedures now to where we're only withholding the last 5% of your entire grant, and that will be released when you submit your deliverables. So this is a new policy, and current ETC grantees might be operating under our original policy. If you want to switch to this new withholding policy of it being only the final 5% of your grant, contact your project manager and they'll be able to get that switched over for you. And it is a state policy to ensure that we get the final deliverables before paying out the full grant. So you'll have to submit those deliverables before that last 5% is returned to you. Next slide, please. So this is the second page of the RFD, and this page breaks down all of the expenses that you listed on page 1. So there are expenses categories A, materials and equipment, B, labor, C, indirect costs, and D, subcontractors. All expenses require backup documentation except for labor. However, while we don't require labor backup documentations, you should be retaining that information in case there's an audit. So make sure you keep all of your records, but we won't be asking for that, those timesheets or anything like that. Be sure to save your receipts. Receipts must show that expenses have been paid, and we'll go over some examples later. The indirect cost rate, again, has to match what you've already listed in your work program, and the grand total at the bottom of the page should match the total on the first page. And again, like the first page, you fill in all of the blue, and then the yellow-green color will auto-calculate itself. All right, next slide. So here are some backup document examples. So we want to see paid or zero balance receipts. We also need to see if something's purchased online from Amazon or any other online retailer, the document has to show that the products were shipped. And you can see that circled on red on this example on the left of the screen. It says that it was shipped. We don't accept any bank statements, so make sure you save all of your receipts. All right, next slide, please. So for car travel, if you are requesting that reimbursement, we can pay one of two ways. So the first is through the personal vehicle mileage reimbursements, and we use the IRS mileage rate, which as of January 1st is 70 cents per mile. And it's meant to cover the maintenance and use of the vehicle, and that includes gas, insurance, and wear and tear. The documentation is a mileage table showing the date of travel to and from locations and an identifier for each unique car driven, the trip purpose, and the number of miles and amount of dollars. And that examples here. Also, if this is confusing, you can reach out to your project manager and they would be very happy to walk you through like what that mileage table might look like. And then the second way that we can pay for a car is through reimbursement of gas costs and rental car costs. So that's an example of what's on the right. And we cannot reimburse any vehicle purchases. So don't buy a vehicle with our grant because we won't be able to reimburse them. All right, next slide. Next, we have some more travel costs. So we can pay for bus rentals, parking fees, and tolls. When in doubt about an allowable cost, ask your project manager or check the Explore the Coast allowable costs guidance document, which again, we can put in the chat. And make sure you ask your project manager before you purchase the thing that you're not sure if you can purchase or not, because we hate having to tell you after you've already bought something that we can't reimburse it. The allowable cost document, which Erin linked, is in the ETC work program template and also on our website. It lists common Explore the Coast program costs and whether they're payable with your ETC grant funds. And we highly recommend that you keep a copy of this document for your reference. Next slide, please. All right, backup documentation for subcontractors. Subcontractors are other people or organizations you pay to complete a service for you. And for their documentation, you can use the invoices that they provide you, and we have an example shown here. And remember that your subcontractors must be approved and listed in your work program in order to be paid. So if you are going to hire a subcontractor, just check with your project manager to make sure that they're approved. Next slide. All right, advanced payment. This is a little complicated, so I'm going to say some stuff that might sound confusing. If you think you might want to use our advanced payment program, definitely reach out to your project manager to give you more information. So although we operate on a reimbursement model, under certain circumstances, we can approve advancement of funds. We heard that reimbursement can be hard for a lot of Explore the Coast organizations, so we implemented an advanced payment program to better serve organizations that have cash flow challenges. So to participate, the person who signed your grant agreement sends an email to your project manager, and that would include the grantee's name, the project name, the grant agreement number, and an explanation of why the advance payment is needed. We would also want to see some example timesheets if it would be paying for employee time, and we would want to see your current NPO award questionnaire. So that was kind of a lot of information. Again, if this is something that you think your organization might be interested in, definitely reach out to your project manager. They can walk you through the process of accessing our advanced payment program. And I think that's enough said for that. So we can go to the next slide. All right, last up, project completion. When you've completed all the work in your project, it'll be time for project completion. First, check with your project manager to let them know that you're ready to close out your project. Make sure that all of your deliverables have been submitted and approved by your project manager. You'll also complete a special version of the progress report called the ETC final report, which is pictured here on the screen. It's just a little bit different from your project progress report. And this will be submitted with your final request for disbursement with your final billing. And on this RFD, you'll also request for your disbursement to be withheld. But again, you can only get that remaining withheld amount released to you if you have all of your deliverables submitted. All right, next slide. So we have a lot of resources to help you successfully complete your Explore the Coast grant. We don't think that you're going to remember everything that we just told you here in this meeting. So some of our resources include the grantee manual, your project manager, which is a really great resource, the allowable cost document, and your ETC work program. So some of those links are in the chat. The grantee manual also is like a home for all of the links. So if you ever can't find one, as long as you have that grantee manual, you should be set to find the rest of them. All right, next slide. Great. So now we're moving into questions. Stick around for an office hours. We're holding time for about 30 minutes of office hours after this if you have really specific questions about your project that you want to discuss. We can also answer some general questions. And maybe we can put the survey in the chat again for anybody that didn't do it first time. Thank you all for attending. Now I'll open it up for questions. Yeah, Victoria, do you have a question?
Just real quickly, I put in the chat and requested, will this PowerPoint plus the training, onboard training, be available to all the attendees so that we can better
Yes.
digest it? Thank you.
It
Thank you.
will, and
Thank
we
you.
can send it to you in an email after the meeting. Is that right, Erin?
Great. And also I added in my chat my email address and my phone number. So yes, I would like to collaborate with anybody who wants to collaborate with us as the Indigenous component for this area.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And no questions means that every invoice is going to be submitted perfectly the first time around and nothing will be rejected because you're all geniuses who understood and took in everything.
Lots to learn.
Yeah. I have a question. This is Eric with 7th Generation Rising. And I think I've asked this question last time, Irving, but can you remind me whether or not we can bill retroactively for stuff leading up to the signing of our contract after the fact? For anything that was related to project management? I think we discussed it the last time we met, but there were some details that still needed to get worked out.
So technically, you cannot spend any of the grant until you have received your notice to proceed letter. There are some times, and this is a somewhat recent development, cases where we can, you can bill some of the time that you spend putting together the conditions precedent to the grant, but that requires, I think, still approval from your project manager. So I would not do that without talking to your project manager first.
No, wonderful. Thank you for the clarification.
And I believe that another requirement of that is that you have to have it written into your grant agreement that you're going to do that. So if your grant agreement isn't done yet, you can just, ask your project manager. And I think you can get that put into the grant agreement, but that's a requirement for it.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate it. I guess I have a question about receipts. The grantee maintains the hard copies while we scan and submit copies of those receipts, or do you need the originals as well?
We don't need the originals. We just, we can see the scanned receipts.
Okay.
You can decide what you do with the originals, but we need the scanned receipts.
Well, we'll file them away for tax purposes, of course, but I just wanted to make sure some grantors have had something different to say about that in the past, so thank you.
All right, well, it's 1 o'clock, so that marks the end of the official time that we've set aside for this meeting. If you don't have any questions, feel free to hop off. A few of us will be staying on for an optional office hours if you have questions that you really want to dive into that you don't necessarily want to do with everybody else online. But if you don't have any of those questions, thank you again for joining us today, and we will make sure that you get the PowerPoint and the training. And please fill out that survey. Thank you all.
Thank you.